The late afternoon sun cast long shadows across the bustling city street as a small boy stood outside Jerry's corner store, his brown eyes fixed on the cheerful ice cream truck parked nearby. His tiny hand clutched 3 quarters so tightly that the coins left imprints on his palm. The ice cream truck's familiar jingle filled the air, but today it seemed to mock him as tears welled up in his eyes. Another boy, slightly older, emerged from the store holding a freshly bought ice cream cone. The sweet vanilla scent wafted through the warm air as he noticed the younger child's distress. He paused, watching as the smaller boy counted his coins over and over, hoping somehow they'd magically add up to more than 75 cents. "Hey, what's wrong?" the older boy asked, taking a few steps closer. His own ice cream cone was still perfectly intact, topped with colorful sprinkles that sparkled in the sunlight. The younger boy looked up, quickly wiping his eyes with his sleeve. "The ice cream costs $1 now," he sniffled. "I only have 3 quarters. I've been saving all week." His voice trailed off as fresh tears threatened to fall. The older boy shifted his weight from one foot to the other, glancing between his cone and the upset child. He remembered all too well how it felt last summer when his own family struggled. His dad had lost his job at the factory, and treats like ice cream became an impossible luxury. The memory of those difficult months was still fresh in his mind. "What's your name?" the older boy asked, settling down on the curb beside the younger child. "Alex," came the quiet reply. "I promised my mom I wouldn't ask for extra money. She's sick. But we always get ice cream on Fridays. It's our special thing." Alex's lower lip trembled as he spoke about his mother. Without another word, the older boy carefully split his ice cream cone in half, making sure both portions were equal. He pulled a clean napkin from his pocket and gently wrapped one half, offering it to Alex. "I'm Ray," he said with a warm smile. "Ice cream tastes better when you share it with a friend." Alex's eyes widened in surprise as he accepted the wrapped cone. "Really? You don't mind sharing?" "Not at all," Ray replied, patting the space next to him on the curb. "Come sit. Tell me about your mom." As the two boys sat together, enjoying their shared treat, Alex opened up about his mother's battle with cancer. He explained how she had to quit her job at the local restaurant to focus on treatment and how ice cream Fridays were their way of celebrating each small victory in her recovery. Ray listened intently, occasionally nodding and asking questions. He shared his own story too, about his father's job loss, their family's struggles, and how things were slowly getting better now that his dad had found part-time work. The boys discovered they both attended the same elementary school, though in different grades. As the ice cream slowly disappeared, so did the initial awkwardness between them. They talked about their favorite subjects in school, their dreams for the future, and their shared love of superhero movies. The afternoon sun continued its descent, painting the sky in brilliant shades of orange and pink, but neither boy seemed to notice the time passing. A gentle breeze carried the sounds of city life around them, cars honking in the distance, pigeons cooing on nearby rooftops, and the occasional laughter from other children playing nearby. Yet in their little spot on the curb, Ray and Alex had created their own quiet moment of friendship, born from a simple act of kindness and 3 quarters that came up short. As they finished the last bites of their shared cone, both boys realized that something special had happened that afternoon. It wasn't just about the ice cream anymore. It was about finding someone who understood what it meant to struggle, to worry about family, and to find joy in simple pleasures. The following week arrived faster than either boy expected. Ray stood outside Jerry's corner store, this time with exactly $2 in his pocket. He'd asked his dad for an extra $1 from his allowance, explaining about Alex and his sick mother. His father, despite their own tight budget, had smiled warmly and handed him the extra $1 without hesitation. Ray waited nervously, scanning the street for any sign of his new friend. He wasn't even sure if Alex would show up, but something told him to wait. The ice cream truck's familiar jingle played in the distance, growing louder as it approached its usual spot. Just then, Alex came running around the corner, still clutching his 3 quarters. His face lit up when he saw Ray, but then fell slightly. "You don't have to wait for me," he said softly. "I still only have 75 cents. Ray grinned and pulled out his $2. "Actually, I thought maybe we could make this our thing. You bring your 3 quarters, I'll bring mine, and we'll get 2 whole cones to share properly this time." Alex's eyes widened in surprise. "Really? But why would you do that?" "Because that's what friends do," Ray replied simply, leading the way to the ice cream truck. "Besides, I like having someone to talk to on Fridays." They'd bought their ice creams, vanilla with rainbow sprinkles for Ray, chocolate with cookie crumbs for Alex, and took their usual spot on the curb. This time, Alex excitedly shared news about his mom. She'd had a good week at her treatments, and her doctors were optimistic. He explained how she'd smiled more than usual when he told her about sharing ice cream with his new friend. "Mom says kindness is like medicine sometimes," Alex said thoughtfully, licking his ice cream. "She says it helps heal more than just the body." Ray nodded, understanding exactly what Alex's mom meant. His own family had experienced countless acts of kindness during their tough times, neighbors bringing meals, his teacher quietly supplying him with school supplies, the local mechanic fixing their car for free. As weeks passed, their Friday ritual became something both boys looked forward to. They'd meet at the same time, pool their money together, and share stories about their week. Ray would talk about his adventures in 5th grade, while Alex would share updates about his mom's recovery and his struggles with 3rd grade math. The ice cream truck driver, an elderly man named Mr. Lee, began to recognize them. He'd wave cheerfully when he saw them coming, sometimes adding extra sprinkles or an extra cherry on top. "My regular Friday customers," he'd say with a kind smile that crinkled the corners of his eyes. One particularly hot Friday, as they enjoyed their ice cream, Alex revealed that his mother had started doing better. She'd managed to walk around the block twice that week, something she hadn't been able to do in months. Ray celebrated this victory with his friend, suggesting they get an extra scoop to mark the occasion. Their conversations grew deeper as trust built between them. They talked about their fears. Alex's worry about his mom, Ray's concern about his dad finding steady work. They shared their dreams too. Alex wanted to become a doctor to help people like his mom, while Ray thought about becoming a teacher to help kids who struggled like he once did. The simple act of sharing ice cream had transformed into something much more meaningful. It wasn't just about the cold, sweet treat anymore. It was about friendship, support, and the kind of understanding that only comes from sharing both happy moments and difficult ones. As summer began to fade into early autumn, their weekly meetings continued, rain or shine. Sometimes they'd seek shelter under the store's awning during sudden showers, their ice cream melting a bit faster as they rushed to finish it. But neither boy minded. They'd found something more precious than perfect ice cream, true friendship built on kindness and understanding. As autumn days grew shorter, Alex had become quieter during their Friday meetings. Ray noticed his friend seemed more worried than usual, picking at his ice cream instead of enjoying it. Finally, one chilly October afternoon, Alex opened up about what was bothering him. "Mom's doctor says she needs a special treatment," Alex explained, his voice barely above a whisper. "But our insurance won't cover it. I heard her crying on the phone last night." He stared at his melting ice cream, watching as a chocolate drop fell to the concrete. Ray felt his heart sink. He remembered his own parents' late-night conversations about bills and worried whispers about making ends meet. Without thinking, he reached into his pocket and pulled out his entire allowance, $4 saved from the past 2 weeks. "Here," he said, offering the crumpled bills to Alex. "Maybe this could help." Alex shook his head, pushing Ray's hand away gently. "That's not even enough for one of her pills," he said, trying to smile through his tears. "But thanks. You're a real friend." That night, Ray couldn't sleep. He tossed and turned, thinking about Alex's mom and his own family's struggles. Then, an idea struck him. The next morning, he visited every house in his neighborhood, offering to do odd jobs, raking leaves, washing cars, walking dogs. Word spread quickly about the determined young boy working to help his friend's mom. Soon, Ray's weekend schedule was packed with small jobs. Other kids from school heard about what he was doing and started helping too. Even Mr. Lee, the ice cream truck driver, started putting his spare change in a special jar labeled Alex's mom. When Alex found out what Ray was doing, he was speechless. Then, to everyone's surprise, he started helping too. The boys worked together every weekend, their friendship growing stronger with each passing day. They discovered that many people in their community had their own stories about fighting cancer or helping loved ones through tough times. Mrs. Chen, who owned the local bakery, shared how her sister had beaten cancer 5 years ago. She started donating a portion of her Friday sales to their cause. The local coffee shop put up a donation jar next to their tip jar. Even their school principal helped organize a fundraising walk. As they worked, Alex told Ray more about his mom, how she used to dance with him in their kitchen while making breakfast, how she never missed a parent-teacher conference, even when she felt sick, and how she still helped him with homework every night despite being exhausted from treatments. One particularly cold afternoon, as they shared their usual ice cream, now eaten quickly before it could freeze their tongues, Alex's eyes sparkled with hope for the first time in weeks. His mom had been approved for a special program that would help cover the cost of her treatment, thanks in part to the community's support. "You know what Mom said?" Alex asked, breaking into a wide smile. She said sometimes angels don't have wings, they have ice cream cones and big hearts. Ray blushed, uncomfortable with being called an angel, but happy to see his friend smiling again. Together, they watched the sunset paint the sky in brilliant shades of orange and purple, their ice cream cones creating small shadows on the sidewalk. That evening marked a turning point in their story. The two boys had discovered something powerful, that sometimes the smallest actions, like sharing an ice cream cone or offering to help, could spark a chain reaction of kindness that could change lives. People walking by would often see them there, two young boys sharing ice cream and stories, unaware that they were witnessing something extraordinary, the kind of friendship that could move mountains, one scoop at a time. As winter approached, Ray and Alex's weekly ice cream meetings faced a new challenge. The ice cream truck would soon end its seasonal route. But their friendship had grown too strong to let the cold weather stop their Friday tradition. Mr. Lee, before parking his truck for winter, surprised the boys with a special announcement. He'd been so moved by their story that he convinced Jerry, the corner store owner, to stock their favorite ice cream flavors. Even better, he'd arranged for the store to offer a special Friendship Friday discount. "You boys taught me something important," Mr. Lee said, his eyes crinkling with warmth. "Sometimes the sweetest things in life aren't just about ice cream." Inside Jerry's store, the boys found a small table by the window where they could continue their weekly meetings. The store's warm air was a welcome change from the cold curb outside. Jerry even added 2 comfortable chairs, calling it their special spot. One snowy Friday, as they enjoyed their ice cream indoors, Alex burst through the door with exciting news. His mom had finished her last treatment, and her doctors were optimistic. The special treatment program, made possible by their community's support, had worked better than expected. "She wants to meet you," Alex said, practically bouncing in his chair. "Mom says she needs to thank the boy who started all this just by sharing an ice cream cone." Ray felt his cheeks grow warm. "I didn't really do anything special," he mumbled, focusing on his melting ice cream. "Anyone would have done the same." "But they didn't," Alex insisted. "You did." The following week, Alex's mom visited their Friday meeting. Despite still looking tired, her eyes sparkled with life and gratitude. She hugged Ray tightly, thanking him not just for helping raise money for her treatment, but for being there for her son during the toughest time of their lives. "You know," she said, joining them for ice cream, "I used to worry about Alex being lonely. His dad," she paused, collecting herself. "His dad left when Alex was very young. But watching you two, seeing this friendship grow, it reminded me that family isn't always about blood relations." As they sat together, sharing stories and ice cream, other regular customers at Jerry's store would smile at their little group. The boys had become something of a local legend, a reminder that kindness could start with something as simple as sharing an ice cream cone. Jerry hung a small photo frame behind the counter, displaying a picture of the boys on their first indoor ice cream Friday. Underneath, he wrote, "Friendship begins with a simple act of kindness." The photo became a conversation starter. Parents would tell their children the story of the two boys who showed how sharing ice cream could change lives. Some kids even started their own Friday traditions, inspired by Ray and Alex's example. That winter taught them that true friendship wasn't about where you met or what you shared. It was about being there for each other, through cold days and warm ones, through tears and laughter, through struggles and celebrations. As Christmas approached, Ray and Alex decided to start a new tradition. They began buying extra ice cream to share with other kids who came to the store, especially those who might be counting coins like Alex once did. They understood now that sometimes the smallest gesture could make the biggest difference in someone's life. Spring arrived, bringing new life to their small corner of the city. Alex's mom had returned to work part-time at a local diner, her strength growing with each passing day. The Friday ice cream tradition continued, but now it had evolved into something bigger than just two friends sharing treats. The corner store had become a gathering spot every Friday afternoon. Kids from different schools would drop by, drawn by the stories they'd heard about the two boys who started it all. Ray and Alex made sure to welcome everyone, especially those who reminded them of themselves from months ago. "Remember how it all started?" Ray asked one sunny afternoon, watching a group of younger kids sharing their ice cream by the window. "With 3/4 and a split cone." Alex nodded, smiling at the memory. "Mom says that's how it works. It starts small, then grows bigger than anyone expects." Their story had spread beyond their neighborhood. A local newspaper reporter had visited one Friday, amazed by how a simple act of sharing ice cream had transformed into a community movement. The article she wrote caught the attention of a children's hospital in the city. The hospital reached out, asking if Ray and Alex would consider starting an ice cream program for young patients. Every Friday, they'd visit kids who couldn't leave their hospital rooms, bringing ice cream and friendship to those who needed it most. Their first visit to the hospital was eye-opening. They met children fighting battles similar to what Alex's mom had faced, but with smiles that could light up entire rooms. One little boy, barely 6 years old, shared his ice cream with his younger sister, reminding everyone how the smallest gestures could make the biggest difference. Jerry's store became the official supplier for these hospital visits, offering special prices and donating extra toppings. The community rallied around the initiative. Local businesses contributed, families volunteered to help, and soon Ice Cream Fridays became a highlight for many young patients. Alex's mom watched all this unfold with proud tears in her eyes. Her own recovery had inspired her to start a support group for other parents dealing with similar challenges. The group met at the diner where she worked, sharing stories over coffee while their kids enjoyed ice cream together. One particularly memorable Friday, a quiet girl at the hospital taught Ray and Alex an important lesson. She had been too sick to eat her ice cream, but insisted on having it in her room just to smell the vanilla and see the colorful sprinkles. Sometimes, she explained with wisdom beyond her years, just knowing people care is sweeter than any ice cream. The boys never forgot her words. They started bringing stickers and small toys along with the ice cream, understanding that healing came in many forms. Their Friday visits became about more than just sharing treats. They were sharing hope, friendship, and the simple joy of making someone smile. Back at Jerry's store, the photo wall had grown. Alongside the original picture of Ray and Alex, there were now dozens of photos showing smiling faces from the hospital, the support group, and their Friday gatherings. Each image told a story of connection, of hearts touching hearts through simple acts of kindness. The local middle school invited them to speak at an assembly about community service. Standing before their peers, Ray and Alex shared their story, not as heroes, but as two ordinary kids who discovered that friendship could change lives, one scoop at a time. Summer was drawing to a close when unexpected news hit Ray's family. His father's part-time job was ending. The small factory where he worked was closing down. The timing couldn't have been worse, with school expenses looming and bills piling up. Ray tried to keep a brave face during their Friday ice cream meetings, but Alex noticed something was wrong. Best friends can tell these things, even when words aren't spoken. After some gentle prodding, Ray finally opened up about his family's situation. Alex rushed home that evening to talk to his mom. She'd been working full-time at the diner now, recently promoted to assistant manager. As she listened to her son explain Ray's father's situation, a memory flickered in her eyes of 3/4, a shared ice cream cone, and how a simple act of kindness had changed their lives. The next morning, she visited Jerry's store, not for ice cream, but to talk to Ray's father, who often helped stock shelves for extra cash. She'd learned that before the factory, he'd managed a restaurant for 15 years. Her diner was expanding, opening a second location across town, and they needed someone with experience. Sometimes life works in circles, she told him, offering him the position of manager at the new location. Your son helped us when we needed it most. Now it's our turn. Ray's father couldn't believe it. He'd been sending out applications for weeks with no responses. Now, standing in the same store where his son's simple act of kindness began, he was being offered not just a job, but a career. The news spread quickly through their tight-knit community. Jerry celebrated by declaring a Pay It Forward Friday, where customers could prepay for ice cream that would go to families facing tough times. The initiative was an immediate success, with the prepaid board filling up faster than anyone expected. At the hospital, the young patients created a special thank you card for Ray and Alex. They'd heard about how the ice cream tradition started and how it had grown into something that touched so many lives. The card was covered in colorful drawings of ice cream cones and messages of gratitude. One Friday afternoon, as both families shared ice cream together at Jerry's store, Ray's father made an announcement. With his first paycheck from the new diner, he wanted to start a small fund at the hospital to ensure that Ice Cream Fridays would continue even when the boys couldn't be there. Alex's mom wiped happy tears from her eyes. "You know," she said, looking at both boys, "there's a saying that kindness is like a boomerang. It always comes back to you. But what you two started, it's more like a ripple in a pond, touching lives we may never even know about." The local community center approached them about starting a mentorship program where older kids could learn to become kindness ambassadors like Ray and Alex. The program would teach young people how small actions could make big differences in their community. Jerry hung a new sign in his store window, "Where friendship begins with a scoop of kindness." Below it, he placed a jar for donations to the hospital fund, already half full with coins and bills from generous customers. As autumn approached again, marking almost a year since that first shared ice cream cone, both families had dinner together at the new diner location. The boys couldn't help but marvel at how their lives had changed, all because of 3/4, a kind heart, and the willingness to share. The years passed quickly, but Ray and Alex's bond only grew stronger. Now in their final year of high school, they still met every Friday at Jerry's store. The small table by the window had been officially named the Friendship Corner, complete with a small plaque telling their story. Their simple act of sharing ice cream had sparked something remarkable in their community. The hospital program they started had expanded to 3 other hospitals in neighboring cities. Young patients now looked forward to Ice Cream Fridays as a bright spot in their treatment journey. The mentorship program at the community center had grown too. Dozens of teenagers now volunteered as kindness ambassadors, each with their own stories of how small acts of generosity had changed lives. Ray and Alex occasionally spoke at these sessions, always emphasizing that you didn't need money or power to make a difference, just a willing heart. Alex's mom had become the regional manager for a chain of diners, while Ray's father successfully ran the second location. Both families had moved to better neighborhoods, but they made sure to return to Jerry's store every Friday, keeping their tradition alive. Mr. Lee, though retired from his ice cream truck days, still visited the store to see his boys. His special jar for helping kids buy ice cream had inspired similar initiatives across town. You see, he'd tell new customers, pointing to the original photo on the wall, sometimes the biggest changes start with the smallest decisions. As graduation approached, both boys received their college acceptance letters. They'd be attending different universities, Ray pursuing education to become a teacher, and Alex following his dream of medical school. The news brought bittersweet smiles to their Friday meeting. "Everything's going to change," Ray said quietly, staring at his ice cream cone. Alex shook his head, smiling. "Not everything. We'll always have Fridays." That's when Jerry unveiled his surprise. He'd been saving for months to give them both something special, a small ice cream cart for each of their college campuses. "So you can spread the magic wherever you go," he explained, his voice thick with emotion. Their last Friday before leaving for college, the store was packed. People from all over the community came to wish them well. The hospital kids sent a giant card. The diner staff brought a cake. Even the local newspaper showed up to do a follow-up story. But what touched them most was seeing how many young kids had started their own sharing traditions. A group of elementary school students proudly showed them their Kindness Club badges. Middle schoolers explained how they'd started a lunch-sharing program for kids who couldn't afford meals. As the sun set on their final Friday as high school students, Ray and Alex sat at their special table one last time. They didn't need words to express what they were feeling. The photos on the walls, the stories they'd heard, the lives they'd touched. It all started with 3 quarters and a willing heart. You know what's amazing? Alex said finally. We thought we were just sharing ice cream, but really, we were sharing hope, Ray finished, understanding perfectly. They looked around the store one last time, at Jerry wiping down the counter, at the donation jar overflowing with coins, at the wall of photos telling countless stories of kindness. Their simple childhood gesture had grown into something neither boy could have imagined. As they stepped out into the warm evening air, both knew that while their daily lives might change, the ripple effect of their friendship would continue. Because sometimes the simplest acts of kindness, like sharing an ice cream cone with a crying stranger, can change not just 2 lives, but an entire community.